Hello friends, welcome to Sketchup Coding tutorials. Today we are going to learn how to avoid the subbends between two lines. First, let's see how to avoid the subbends in Sketchup model. First, I'm going to draw a line having a length of 100 units, and again I'm going to draw a line having 100 units in this axis. Then, to avoid the subbend at the corner, I'm going to draw a smooth curve over here. For this, I'm going to use this 2-point arc. I'm going to take the midpoint of this line, and I'm going to take midpoint of this line, and I'm going to hover this until I get a smooth curve. Now you can see it is a smooth curve to avoid the bend. Now I'm going to select this region and also select this line and this line, and just press delete key to delete them. Now it will be your smooth curves joining these two lines. But the problem behind doing in SketchUp model is that you don't know what's the length of the bend is, and if you have got a number of lines, or in practical if you have number of pipes and you are going to draw a number of bends, then it is very tiresome work to do in SketchUp model. So to avoid that, we are going to do it in SketchUp Coding. I'm going to press Ctrl A and delete key. I'm going to Window and Ruby code editor. As discussed earlier, these are the three different lines of coding. So without any delay, I'm going to draw two lines and I'm going to add a curve between them. Let's say the start point as 100, 30, 40. Then the midpoint or the point joining these two lines would be 30, 40, 60, and the end point will be 70, 80, 80, and the bend length will be 50, and the number of edges that will be used to draw the arc will be 20. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a method that is already coded by me, which I will show just in a minute. The method is smooth lines, and it takes the first point, that is a start point, and it takes the midpoint as point mid. Then it takes the last point, that is point end, and it takes bend length as we have already declared it to be 50, and it takes the number of edges. Now it will directly do our work. Let's see what is the code for the method smooth lines. So at first I'm going to copy the code that I have already written, that goes like this. First, I'm not going to this long coding. This is just a method. I have written a method that will take the start point, midpoint, end point, bend length, and number of edges, and that will do our work. So I have included this method with the definition of a smooth lines, and this method ends over here. So the program will just start from this point, and the method smooth line will do the work. So first let's run this program and we will understand how the code works. So let's press Ctrl R and press this zoom extends button. To visualize it more clearly, I will add a new command, that is int dot add face, joining the point start, the midpoint, and the end point. Let's run this program again. So you can clearly see the original lines were these two lines, and after avoiding these bends, the circular arc is drawn over here. So we can change the bend length, and we can also check if this is correct or not. Suppose the bend length here is 50. So let's go to SketchUp model and select this bend, and you can easily see the length is 4 feet and 2 inches. 12 times 4 is 48, plus 2 inches will be 50 inches. So this bend length is 50 inches, and the number of edges that we have provided is 20. That means the SketchUp has used 20 number of edges to draw this circular arc. There are 20 small edges to form this circle or circular arc, and the start point, midpoint, and point end are these points. This is the starting point, this is the midpoint, and this is the end point. So by using this method, if we have got the starting point, the midpoint, and the final point, and the bend length, then we can easily draw this smooth bend between these two lines. So let me go to the background of how does this works. First, you need to understand some basic mathematics behind how to draw a bend. Let us consider these are the two lines, AB and BC. Now this point will be the point where the curve starts, or the circular arc starts, and this will be the point where the curve ends. Now if we have the two lines, we can easily find the angle between these two lines using the concept of vector. So after finding this angle, looking at this quadrilateral, if this is angle, and then this whole angle that is supposed to be theta will be 180 degree minus this angle, so we can calculate this angle. Then since this is a circular arc and this is the radius of the circle and this is also the radius of the circle and this is the length, so we can use the formula that if this whole is theta, then theta equals to the arc divided by the radius. Using this formula, radius can be calculated as bend length divided by theta. So after calculation of radius, then using the vector approach, we can easily find this vector and this vector from these coordinates. So if we have this vector and if we have this vector, if we add those two vectors, we will get a resultant vector like this. And the magnitude of this resultant vector will be found by radius divided by cos theta by 2 using this right angled triangle. After we find the direction by using the resultant of these two vectors and magnitude by this formula, then we can transfer the coordinate of this point into this point, since we can add this vector to this coordinate to get the center of this circular arc. And if we know this center, then we can also calculate this length from curve start to this point by using this formula in this triangle using radius times tan theta by 2. So if we have this vector and if we have this magnitude, we can also calculate the coordinate of this point by adding this vector to this coordinate. And similarly, in this case also, we can add this vector to this coordinate to get the coordinate of curve end. So since we already got the coordinates of curve start, the coordinate of curve end, and the center point, then the SketchUp can easily draw the circular arc. So that's the concept behind drawing the bend. So now let's go to SketchUp and look for the coding steps. Let's go to the model, press Ctrl A and press delete. Let's see line by line how does it works. First, it takes the start point, midpoint, end point, bend length and number of edges. In the first step, we just define the vector. This vector is nothing but a line joining the midpoint to the start point, and vector 2 is a line joining the midpoint with the end point. So in pictorially we can see vector 1 is the vector PA and vector B is vector BC. Then to find out the angle between these two vectors, there is a command called vector1 dot angle between vector 2. So the bend angle will store a value that is the angle between these two lines, that is in radian. So let's draw this line and this line. Press Ctrl R. Now let's see what it has drawn. Okay, vector 1 is, this one is the vector 1, this one is vector 2, and it has already got the angle between these two lines. Let's go to the next step. It gets the unit resultant vector. So if we add this vector and this vector, we will get the resultant vector. The vector1 dot normalize is a command that will convert the vector into unit vector. We are using the unit vector here because to get a symmetrical curve, we need to use the unit vector. Since if we add the unit vector from this line and the unit vector from this line, we will get a line that is the angular bisector between these two lines. So after adding these two vectors, we got the resultant, and we again normalize this resultant to get the unit resultant. After getting the unit resultant, we also need to get the magnitude of the resultant. To get magnitude of this resultant, we are going to use radius by cos theta by 2, where theta is, we have already discussed, theta equals to 180 minus this angle between two lines. So after getting the magnitude, if we multiply the unit resultant vector with its magnitude, we will get the overall resultant vector. Now we are going to find the center of circular arc. Now we can see from here that to get the center of the circular arc, if we have this coordinate and if we have this vector, we can add the coordinate and this vector to get to the center of the circular arc. So the same thing is done over here. The center of arc equals to the central coordinate plus the resultant vector's coordinates. So to see this, let's uncomment this and again press Ctrl R to run the program. So you can see that the resultant, this vector is the resultant, and this will be the center of the circular arc. Now the final idea is to get the start and end points of the curve, this and this point. So to get that points, we need to find the semi-length. Semi-length is nothing but the distance between this start of this point to this midpoint. So to find this length, we are going to use the formula radius times tan theta by 2 by using this triangle. And if we know this vector and its magnitude, then from this coordinate, if we add this vector, we will get this coordinate as curve start. So the same process is done over here, and to find the end of the arc end, the same process is applied. Like we know this vector and we know this magnitude, then if we add this coordinate and this vector, then we will get the curve end coordinate. Let's see those lines by uncommenting this. Let's again press Ctrl R to run the program. So these two lines will be the lines joining the center of the arc to the start and end points of the curve. Then to draw the arc in SketchUp, we need to find the vectors. So the first vector is this line, and the second vector is this line. And SketchUp also needs a vector that is perpendicular to both these vectors. So to find the perpendicular vector to both of these, we are going to find the cross product of these two vectors. As we know that the cross product of two vectors will give a vector that is perpendicular to both of them. So I have represented here by using perpendicular vector, PERP vector. Then at last the final line is drawn from the start point and arc start. So this is the point where the arc starts, and this is the original point, because we don't need the midpoint now. And line final 2 is the line, and line final 2 is the line that joins the point end, that is this point, and the arc end, this point. So we are avoiding the external part, so this part of the lines will get trimmed. And finally, to draw the arc, we use this same command that we have discussed in the earlier videos. To draw the arc, it will take this central coordinate, that is center arc, this point, and it will take the first vector, that is final vector 1, which is this vector, and it will take another, that is the perpendicular vector to this plane. So we have already find out the perpendicular vector to these two vectors. And another thing it will take is the radius. since the radius we have already calculated from the formula above as bend length divided by theta. And the next thing it takes is the starting angle, since the starting angle is 0 degrees and the final angle is theta, so it will make a curve until the angle reaches theta, and it will take the number of edges and it will draw the arc. Now at final what can we get is, let's comment these extra lines and let's go to the model, press Ctrl A and delete, and let's run the program again. So that will be our final result. So you can try different bend lengths, like instead of 50 you can try 20 and run the program by pressing Ctrl R. You will get a smaller bend length, and if you choose a less number of edges then it will not be smoother. Like say if you choose only 2 edges and press Ctrl R, it will just use 2 edges to draw this bend. So it's always better to use almost more than 20, so I'm choosing the number of edges to be 20. So for the final result I'm also commenting this line, and let's go to model, press Ctrl A and delete, and let's press Ctrl R. So this will be the final result. That's all about the smoothing the bends in between the two lines. You can also use different plugins available in SketchUp to do the same task, but if you know how to do coding then it will be quite easier. If some extra problems arise then you can just change some coding and you can create your own variations of these bends. So for more details you can look down in the description box, and for any inquiry feel free to leave comments down below. And thanks for watching.